Hi, welcome back to the shed for episode 8 of the Stratocaster build. Last time we started work on the fretboard by cutting the fret slots and getting the radius sanded in. However, the day after that, I actually started to develop a bit of a cough and a wheezy chest. Now initially I thought that was a reaction to the rosewood dust. As it turned out, I'd actually contracted full-blown man flu, and as you all know, that can be potentially lethal. So I've been laid up and out of the shed for a few days, but thankfully I did have a protocol that enabled me to recover enough to get back into the workshop. And over the last day or so, I've finished off the fret slots and I've got the radiusing and the sanding finished on the board. So as you can see now, it's up to 1200 grit and looking very, very nice. So in this episode, I'll continue with the board by putting the position markers in firstly, and then getting it sized up and trimmed down so we can actually get it ready to attach onto the guitar neck itself. But please bear with me, I'm still a little bit croaky, so my voiceover might be somewhat restricted. Now, it might have been an idea to actually put these markers in before I polished the wood up to that extent, but to be honest, it's probably about 5 minutes work, so not really an issue. And what I'd normally do is I'd mark which positions I want the markers at. I would then take a steel rule and I would draw the diagonals in, and that would give me my centre points. However, I've checked this with a sliding bevel and it's not tapered particularly evenly. So I'm not sure that doing it that way would give me the centre positions of the trimmed board. So instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure this and draw in a centre line, dead centre of what we've got, and then I will measure each individual fret position where we need a marker, kind of half that, and then position that on the centre line. So when I'm getting dead centre of each position, I'll then just put a awl mark where I want to drill it out with one of my nice Famag brad point bits to the 6mm, and I've got some little mother of pearl markers that are going to go in. Hopefully if I can get the drilling something like close, there won't be a huge amount of sanding to do, so we won't kind of scuff up this finish too much. So I'll just get marking and measuring and we can take it from there. So that's the fretboard sanded back down again to 1200. I've got some old super acrylics that I've saved for doing this job because I don't want it getting too clogged up with rosewood dust, and I'm just giving it a quick wipe over with some isopropyl alcohol just to get all of that dust and probably quite a bit of oil out of the top of the fretboard. I'll give that a quick buff up, and we're back to where we were before we started to put the dots in. So I think that's gone absolutely lovely. Very, very happy with that. And I don't know if we'll be able to demonstrate this on camera, but I've checked them with a straight edge and they are all pretty much spot on. So that's great. So next up, I've still got my centerline markings at the end of the board. So what I'm going to do is just re-establish them properly on the bits of the board that aren't really going to be used, because next we're going to trim this down closer to its actual finished length and then work out how much of this side material we need to lose for it to fit on our neck. But before I do that, I just want to do something that I've been meaning to do for a little while now, and that's give you an update on what the actual cost rundown has been for this project so far. Now, I've tried to go with quite a lot of genuine Fender parts for this build. It isn't a budget build. I've tried to get good quality parts wherever possible, but without breaking the bank. So to start off with, I've got a pair of genuine Fender Strat buttons. They were £8.79. I've got a Wilkinson bridge tremolo setup. That was £30.99. It's actually quite a nice one, even if it is a little bit cheaper than the standard Fender job. I have a Switchcraft jack socket, which was £3.99. Pickguard was £12, and on the pickguard I've got the CTS pots, which were £20 for the 3, and the switch was £16.99. Pickups were a major part of the outlay. They were £79, which is not a huge amount of money to spend on 3 pickups, but still nowhere near as cheap as I could potentially get them, but I know they're going to be good. Neck plate was £5.99. That's just a generic variant. Truss rod, £15 or thereabouts. The blank for the fretboard was £19 and the dot markers were £8. Tuners, again, genuine Fender, £54.99. String trees, again Fender, £9.95. The paint, which I'm not going to show you because it's still a secret, was £18, and the amber lacquer for the neck was £9. The back plate was a £5, as were the knobs for the pots, and the capacitors were £5.98. And finally, jack plate. I could only get kind of a generic version of that. I couldn't get a genuine Fender one, and that was £2.50. On top of that, there's the cost of the wood for the body and the neck, and if I remember correctly, that all came in at about £60. So in total, excluding the frets, which are still to get, I've spent £391.14. So at the time of recording this, that equates to $498 US, which I don't actually think is a lot of money for a nice Stratocaster. Anyway, back to the build. Now, to set this up properly, I'm going to have to get the neck attached into the body, and I can't do that at the moment because I need to finish off these areas here. Now, I left them rough cut, if you remember in a previous episode, and I'm going to hand fit them with a plane so they're an exact fit into the neck pocket. Now I'm not ready to do that at the moment, so I can't get this fretboard fitting exactly how I want to, because remember, we've moved things around a little bit on the body, so the neck pocket is 1.5 mil-ish further that way, and also the fretboard needs to move a touch that way. It's only a matter of kind of 1.5 mil or so. So I can't really set these two up together yet, because without fitting this in the body, I don't really fully understand where my nut line is going to be. However, I do have a template, so I can set this up on the fretboard that we've got, and I can draw around that. And as long as I don't cut too close to the line, it will leave me the wriggle room that I need to get this put together properly. And all I need to do, essentially, is line up my nut line and line up my centre lines, remembering that we don't have to be absolutely 100% correct at this stage, and we can just draw around that. Get that to the bandsaw and rough trim it. I really struggled to see that first line, so I've just come back and put a white line down on the second side just so I can better get it through the bandsaw. And there we have the fretboard rough cut to shape. There is still a little bit to be cleaned off there, but we're pretty much where we need to be with it. So next up is we need to cut the little notch in the end that will accommodate the adjuster for the truss rod. However, I can't really do that until I've got a definite position for this nut line. And I can't do that until I've got this fitting into the neck pocket properly. So we need to get this in the vise, break out the plane and start to work this material down. However, that's going to be for the next episode. I think we've covered quite enough on this one. So I'll be back in a couple of days' time with that. Until then, don't forget to hit that like button if you've enjoyed this. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. And I'll look forward to seeing you then. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye bye.